Hello and welcome to another episode of Making Origami. Today we are going to make a fancy dinosaur. I mean, look how fancy that paper is. It's very fancy. And on the other side, it's also a lovely color, but we're going to focus on the fancy side. Now to start out, we're going to be folding diagonally where the fancy paper is on top of the fancy paper. So it's going to make sense later on when you make the diamond, not the long diamond, but the diamond. It's a diamond, but that's really fancy. And then when you fold it the non-diagonal way, you have the underside of the paper because it'll make sense when to make the square. Wow, don't look at the folds because, it's not really the best folding in the world, but you do this enough and people will be very entertained. So that'll be good. It'll be the talk of your friend group making origami dinosaurs. Speaking of dinosaurs, doesn't everybody love dinosaurs? Well, I know a good chunk of people like dinosaurs. I know I like dinosaurs. Jurassic Park is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I watch a lot of movies, if you didn't know that already, by the fact that I am making a video about how to make origami because, what do you do when making origami? You watch movies, and one of those movies is Jurassic Park. Oh, look, I am doing some more folds. Yay. Oh, you're going to get a kite shape. Now, when you make your kite shape, make sure to fold that top part in because that makes sense later when you open it up and create the bird's mouth. What's the bird's mouth? We'll figure it out in a minute. But, make sure to make your kite. And then, there's the bird's mouth. Make sure you go along the creases. I know I mess up a little bit when I do that, just like in the origami crane video, but we're not going to worry about mistakes because it all works out in the end, just like in Jurassic Park, at least for most of the characters. I don't know if it really worked out for everybody in there, especially Joffrey. Poor Joffrey. He was just opening a gate, then the Velociraptor banged its head against the cage door and he fell off. And a little fun fact, if you see when Joffrey falls off, you can see a hand in the bottom right part of the frame where he's falling because that's the camera person being like, don't fall on the camera. We must save the camera equipment at all costs. The actors, they're stunt people. They'll be fine. They'll just land safely and everything will work out just fine. And side note, back to the origami cranes and origami dinosaurs kind of start out the same after you get to the long diamond part, but then you have to create a little sail part, which, I did so well doing here, the sail part. Speaking of sails, Jurassic Park 3 features the Spinosaurus, which also had a sail. And unfortunately, this isn't a Spinosaurus. It can be if you add a little spine to the back, but fortunately that's not the case with this. This can be a Velociraptor, Deinonychus, pretty much any theropodal dinosaur, except for Spinosaurus, unfortunately, because it doesn't have a sail. It could be a Suchomimus or a Baryonyx, or at least a very small snouted Suchomimus or Baryonyx, because they have longer snouts. Oh, and if you want to see a Baryonyx in a TV show format, watch Camp Cretaceous, now available on Netflix. Don't have Netflix? Then I'm sure you could steal a friend's account and all that jazz. Okay, so here we folded it kind of okay, and then, you got to make sure you're being very careful with the bottom fold and pulling it up to create the theropod arms because... Okay, and now we have the legs. Now, the legs are pretty tricky because you got to fold them down, fold them back, and then fold them forward, and you got to get them right. I'm sure everyone else is finding this a lot easier than I do, but I usually do a rush job with the legs and just try to fold it really hard so to make sure that it stands up properly. But unfortunately, my dinosaurs love doing the splits. They love watching RuPaul's Drag Race. Now, on MTV and Wow Presents Plus and a few other streaming sites, and that's great for them. And here we have the folding of the legs of the dinosaur. We have one leg down, or is it both legs? Oh my gosh, it's both legs. Wow, that is an amazingly made, fancy dinosaur. Thank you.